Welcome to the Reschooled Podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts, AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are the Reschooled Podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may not have prepared you for. As always, I'm AJ, and sitting across from me, the drummer, apparently extraordinaire. Y'all didn't get to see that on camera, but Jason, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good, man. I couldn't help it. I was like, I hear our intro episode so much, I had to air drum it with I had some sticks beside me. So
I hear you. Well, we're back. How was vacation?
Rest, relaxed, ready to go, ready to rock and roll, man.
I hear you. Are you the type that needs a vacation after vacation?
Yeah. See, I don't need a vacation ever.
Yeah.
Like I need time to work and extended time. Like I need to uncrunch deadlines. But as far as a vacation, I get frustrated by vacations because I'd rather be doing what I like doing, which is kind of my work, right? I'd rather be making videos. I'd rather be teaching things. I'd rather than sitting on a beach. It's just the way I am, right? What about you?
Now, I'm not a, so when we just got back from the beach, I'm not a big beach person. Like I have friends out there, and I'm sure there's listeners, both of them are probably listening, and they're saying that I'm completely stupid. I'm not somebody that can sit on the beach for 8 hours. Like take everything out there in the morning and just stay the entire day. I have friends that can do that. I'm just like, I would lose my mind.
My
boring, wife is
man.
somebody.
I got to have things to do.
Oh, my wife is that person. She can take a chair, one of those layout chairs, and lay out on the beach for like 8 hours with a book, and she's completely fine. I am not. My ADD kicks in, and I've got everything going in my head, trying to figure out what I should be doing, what I could be doing. And I like action. Like I like, even when we do, go down to the beach, I love bringing games, whether it be cornhole or, different games. There's a Frisbee game that we were playing. So I have to actually be doing something. I can't just lay there.
And I actually have the bad habit of, if I'm playing cornhole or I'm playing bocce or something like that, and then I just kind of walk around and drink beer, at the same time.
You have to.
But I my favorite thing to do on the beach, I love to fish. I love to, throw out a line and stuff. But, that's kind of, you throw out a weighted line, put a couple of liters on it and just wait. But I love throwing the baseball or throwing the football.
Yep.
I absolutely love it. Like I could stand there. I'm one of these like repetitive type people. Even in high school, I could stand there and throw a ball for 4 hours straight. When I would get tired, like hard throwing with my right, you start doing underhand throws, and sidearms and stuff. I'd even switch over, and I got pretty good at throwing left-handed just because of
I look terrible doing that.
Spend my time like that, So
no, I was gonna say like that's for me. There's been times where we'd come back from vacation, I would feel like I need Tommy John surgery because I was just throwing the baseball or throwing the football so much. And then to your point about the beer, like when you play anybody that plays cornhole or bocce ball knows you got to have a counterweight in your hand, and that's your beer. So I mean that's 100%. We it was a fun time. Well, today's episode we are getting into double majors and minors, which is going to be an interesting topic because I think we both have our opinions on this, and I'm interested to see if they match up or not. I can't tell. This is not something that we talked about prior to recording this, so I'm really interested to see kind of where you're going, see if we're on the same page or not. But does that sound good to you?
I definitely have strong opinions on it, yeah. Before we jump in, though, got to remind everybody, reschooled.com. Check us out, social media profiles, check us out there. Of course, on your favorite podcasting app, give us all the stars, all that good stuff. But big thing, we want to hear from you guys. Send us the messages that, if you like our stuff, tell us. If you hate our stuff, tell us, or just tell AJ.
Send me an email privately.
Yeah. If you think he or I sound ridiculous, you should tell him. Right?
Ridiculous? Did you just call it ridiculous?
Yeah, I think that's what I said. So.
That's pretty much our show right there.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. We want to hear from you. Give us something to talk about.
Absolutely. Quick question. This is probably going to be the most. I'll say this is going to probably be the quickest question we've ever had. Did you have a double major or minor?
No.
Okay. I did not.
There was a lot of kicking it around, thoughts about it and stuff like that. But I did the mental math, and it just didn't make sense for me.
Yeah. And I didn't I didn't have it, but I think I was a couple hours or a couple classes shy of having one of them, just because I went so far into my biology degree or my chemistry degree for pre-med that if I would have taken a couple more classes, I probably would have had one of the two. But I mean, what's a chemistry or biology major good for if you're a business? You know, you're getting your business degree. So I just decided not to take on that.
Brings up a good point. We need to go ahead and define for people.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's in college yet, that type of thing. They haven't read these words or made these decisions. We need to tell them what a major is, what a double major is, all that kind of stuff, what that means.
So a double major is 2 majors. I got that one. Mm-hmm. I got that one on lock.
But we got to define what is a major.
Okay, go ahead.
There's this long history in the U.S. People don't realize that our system of education is different than many other places in the world, right? In other places in the world, particularly Europe, they were conquestors and all that type thing. So, right, they imperialist and they kind of installed their educational system in a lot of places. But the U.S., we kind of took a little bit of a different route in terms of, the way things played out in our higher education system. So, start with. Other systems say, you learn on your basic stuff, your English, your histories, your social sciences, that kind of stuff in high school, and then you go on to college and, well, you go on and you learn what you're going to do, your trade, your skill, your craft, that type of thing. Now, some of the more elite universities were for scholars, right? They were for thinkers, all that kind of thing. People who are going to, probably aristocrats and things like that who already had positions that they were going into. They had family companies. They had all those things. They were going to inherit titles and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, to be deep thinkers, to study philosophy, to study the past historical works was something of benefit to them. Now, in the United States, we quickly, after the Revolution or during the Revolution, were trying to create a kind of an aristocratic class, right? We were trying to match that of Europe and stuff. And basically, so the institutions of higher education, our early places like UVA, Harvard, things like that, we adopted in the U.S. a full liberal arts system, which basically said we're going to create a well-rounded person. So college early on didn't even have majors. All it had was just this general focus of you studied things under other people who were very knowledgeable. And that's how education systems started hiring PhDs and things like that, because they were like, well, you can go out and practice, you can work under practitioners and learn how to do things. The big thing about college is you need to learn how to think. And who's out there thinking about things are people who study it all the time and just research it. And those are your doctors of philosophy, right? PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy, right? So you hired these people. Now, over time, that changed, right? You're sending more and more people to college. Not everybody's going to be an erudite, right? Somebody who's just the expert in whatever they're doing. I know, you got to use that big word, right? We're in college now. So not everybody's going to be like that, right? School had to orient itself more towards practical use in general fields, right? And you had to set up for people to be able to go down a given track. So they developed things that said, all right, you're still going to get a arts-based degree or a science-based degree or whatever, but you're going to do concentrations in it, and they eventually called those majors, and they put together all these classes. So now in college, a major comes out to be about 30 to 30, somewhere between 30 and 40, right? 40 would be the very highest end. Most of them are about 30 to 36, but 30 to 40 credit hours in most courses, right? For every, I want to say it's for every about 30 to 40 hours of academic contact expected, you get 1 credit hour. So if you have a 15-week semester and the course meets for 3 hours a week, two sessions of an hour and a half each, right? That is generally going to be 3 credit hours because you put 3 hours of academic classroom time into the course per week. So that's how you get up, it's a 3 credit hour course. You meet for approximately 3 hours per week, right? And if you're taking 15 credit hours for the semester, you're in the classroom 15 hours a week. Now, you're supposed to study outside the classroom and continue to learn and all that stuff, though that is becoming less and less as we, as college becomes more standardized, students are starting to expect to get everything from in class, right? Which is kind of an impossibility, right? You have to do some work outside of class. You have to do some reading. You have to do some of those things and try to expand your knowledge. But anyway, bottom line, a major has become this collection of classes that is normally some 30 hours of defined classes. So you can take a certain set that they've defined that says, 21 or 24 of the hours have to be this. And this additional 10 to 12, you can choose courses from this list. And they all go together, and that's a concentration within your school, and that is a major for you. And even within majors, sometimes you even have concentration. So your major could be information technology, but of those courses that you have the opportunity to choose from, if you choose all cybersecurity, right, you can get a concentration within your major of cybersecurity. Or in business, if you want to take a bachelor's of business administration, and you take all these business administration classes, but you take 18 of those hours in accounting, you can get a concentration in accounting, right? And so you have your majors, and then within the majors, you'll sometimes have concentrations. And then some schools will even say, you don't have to take all of these classes. You don't have to take 36. You could take 12 hours, right? 4 classes or 15 hours in some given course of study, and we'll give you what's called a minor. And a minor is usually somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of the number of courses you have to take in a given area to get a major. So that's what we're kind of baselining it on. And schools will vary a little bit in how many hours fit into a major, a minor, and a concentration, right? But that's the common parlance that you're going to hear. Major, minor. There you go. So now we're ready to run with it. Everybody understands what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I will say, too, for the most part, I look at concentrations very similar to minors within your degree. So, like, for instance, at our college, we have concentrations, and we have one major in the School of Business. It is a Bachelor's of Business Administration. But under that, we have concentrations. So you're not going to take 36 hours of accounting to get an accounting major. You're going to take 36 hours, or you're going to take so many hours. I can't remember how many there are, but you're going to take so many hours of business classes, which some include accounting. But then you're also going to take, like you said, the 18 specific to accounting. So you're going to get that, here's my major of business in general. And then I'm going to have this minor, which we're going to call concentration because it's within that degree. We're going to call it accounting or whatever it is, marketing, whatever you're going for. So I kind of look at minors and concentrations as similar, depending on the structure of the college.
Minors, normally, people have to do that outside of their common school, right? You don't get your major and then a minor within your major. You get a concentration. And they kind of fit together. Your concentration classes satisfy, towards your major. You're just taking that concentration. But a minor, normally, most of the classes are separate. They do not double count, right? They don't satisfy your major and your minor, at least from what I've seen in most places.
So just to kind of give you some examples, let's do it this way, because you just did a great job defining majors, minors, and concentrations. Now let's go into the double majors. We don't have to go into the minors because we just talked about that, but double majors. Oh, I guess we can go into minors. Let's give some examples of possible double majors or minors, or majors with minors, that you can think of. So for one, for instance, for me, I've seen quite a few students at our college come through and they're getting a major in IT, but they're getting a business minor, some business minor, because they work hand in hand.
Well, I would honestly say the sky's the limit, right? You can get double major in anything you want to. It's just about whether you're willing to stay there, to take the time, to take the classes. Lots of people come back, they graduate from college and they come back again and get a separate major, right? Because they're like, I graduated with this. It's not the career field I want to get into. I realized that I should have studied this other stuff, and I need the credential. I need it. I need something to say that I've, taken this line of courses without just saying I've taken a few courses there. So they want that certificate, for the full course load. So they come back and get a second major, right? Some people know early on that they want to do something that is might not work out, so they have a fallback plan. So they study two things. Other people are just very interested in two things and can't decide. They're like, I just want to learn about these things. And they follow the course sequence and they get majors. So while strategically, logically, there's a way to maximize your time and get multiple majors and minors, majors and concentrations. But as long as you got the time and the money, don't hold back, right? Expand yourself in however way. And in a perfect world, we would all take a lot of classes in a lot of areas that would expand us as people, right? But time is a factor. You have to move on with life. You have to make money. You have to take on responsibility, and you can't afford to just be a perpetual student. So there you go, right?
Well, let's get into the biggest question of this entire episode. What is your opinion on double majors and minors?
I have a really strong opinion. It might be better to hear your opinion first. What's your opinion?
I'm not a big fan of them. I don't see, like, to me, there are very few situations where I can see them being advantageous to the point of me saying, yes, I think you should go to double majors or a minor. But in all other situations, there are other better options out there. The one that comes to my mind always, because I have a lot of students, I've had students in the past, I've seen students in the past wonder this, whether it was when I was in undergrad, but for some reason, I think it's just because of they feel like there's a job demand for it, or it opens the door more, maybe, giving them a greater kind of net to cast. But for some reason, I've had, or I shouldn't say had, because we don't have different majors in business in our school. But I've seen students in other schools, I've talked to them, where they were contemplating doing a double major in accounting and finance. And again, if looking at it from the outside, you're like, okay, well, you're like I said, you're building this net. It's a wider net to cast, so you can say you can go into accounting or you could go into finance. But to me, from a hiring perspective, I think most hiring companies, or companies that are hiring for positions, or whatever, they're looking for a specific specialization. Not they kind of want somebody that knows a lot about a little, but not a little about a lot. And if you're really kind of, and I've said this to my students specifically, if you're really interested in looking at a finance and accounting degree, and you're willing to put in that extra time to do the double major, then go get a master's. Master's is going to set you up even higher. So like if you want accounting and finance, then get an undergrad in accounting and a master's in finance, or vice versa. Get an undergrad in finance and get a master's in accounting. But what you're doing is, by getting the master's, you're setting yourself up further. I mean, to be able to say that you got a graduate degree versus somebody who has an undergrad, it's going to make you look different. It's going to make you look a little bit better when it comes to the hiring process. So instead of spending the time to get a double major, another undergrad, why not just take that time and go into a master's program? Minor is kind of the same thing. The only time I would say a minor would be important is if you're really looking to expand your knowledge on a certain topic. So I guess another way to say that would be, I would almost say, if you're thinking about a minor, if you're doing it for the purpose of the degree, don't do it. If you're doing it for the purpose of the education, then you have something that's justifiable in terms of the minor. But for the purpose of doing it for a degree, there's so many better options, because you're going to be spending more money and more time. Why not go get a higher level degree? That's my opinion on it. What's yours?
So the reason my opinions are so strong on this is because I have serious reservations about where the higher education system is going and what it's become. In my opinion, much of college has become the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th grade. And I have a lot of frustrations with that. I'm strongly oriented to the very career-focused, general learning and education through your career focus type of thing. But even for people who don't have a career focus, I'm very focused on general knowledge and understanding about being a well-rounded person. Okay. Skills you can acquire on your own. You barely need college for that. And, everything, I believe you could be an accountant without ever taking a day of college classes. I believe you could be a lawyer without ever taking a day of college classes. But I don't think you could be a well-rounded, thoughtful individual without having the exposure that college gives you. Now, you could get that through travel. You could get that through concentrated area in study, research, and things like that. But most people don't have the resources, the knowledge, or ability to do that. So school is the most structured approach to it. Now, with that being said, I will differ on your opinion a little bit about what employers want.
Sure.
Employers just want somebody these days who can communicate well, who has been through something. They oftentimes don't even care about their majors and stuff like that. It would be nice if they come in with some level of skills, but they realize that if you're a good student, you're diligent, you work hard, you can learn how to do anything. But so many students, because we're sending more and more, a higher percentage of our population to college, it's just eroding the quality of the student in college, right? Honestly, you just have to lower the standards across the board. I've got college students who cannot write a clear, concise paragraph. They cannot write a grammatically correct combination of sentences in a paragraph. And that never used to be the case with a college graduate, right? Not only could they write grammatically correctly, they were well-rounded in the history of where they came from. They had some exposure in their field, normally through internships and practicums. They could quote philosophy. They had this area of acquired knowledge that was more well-rounded. Now you have people who are just checking the box, going through classes. And honestly, if I had to honestly assess at the end of the semester whether my students know the subject matter, which I've taught them the whole semester, the answer is maybe 1 out of 50 could score even a 20 or 30 or 40%. Their knowledge base at the end of it is so low by comparison. So college is coming to become this thing of just exposure without a level of mastery at all. And that's kind of what we have to work in, right? And that's you have to play the system. I would love to see a revamp of the entire system. But understanding what our system is like and how employers look at things. Oftentimes employers, like I say, will look at your major and say it's good, right? You've studied finance, so you should at least have some level of exposure. It'll be easier to teach you what it takes to do your job here and things like that. Having a second major towards that same purpose usually is not very useful. But if a second major allows you to go down roads that you otherwise could not, meaning that without getting a major, I could never get this second certification, right? Without, for example, I went to law school, but I can never practice patent law because I can't sit for the patent bar. I would have in undergraduate had to have had an engineering or specific science or computer-based major. Now, I am very happy with the well-rounded major that I chose. But I also didn't realize that if I ever wanted to do some of that, I'd be limited. So if I do realize, right, I want to do those things, I probably should have gotten that second major. And it's not just taking the courses, right? By the time you've taken all those courses, you've got at least a minor, you've probably got a major. So again, there's this signaling function that comes along with it. Same way with medical school. You can major in just about anything you want to, as long as you take the minor, or excuse me, not a minor, but the courses that are required to sit for the MCAT exam, right? And to meet the entry requirements into medical school. So you can take the biologies, the chemistries, the anatomies, the physiologies, those types of things that will prepare you for the MCAT and that type of thing. But by the time you've taken all that, you've at least got a minor, right? Type thing. And in many situations, right, to actually have that certificate has a signaling function that means something, right? So anyway, these are all obviously my personal opinion, right? They don't represent the opinion of anyone else, not another school, not another person type thing. But if you're trying to, you and I just have a slightly different opinion on it. I have frustrations with less about the education system and more about what the hiring world expects and how education is fitting into that now. I really believe in a new model where, you're a well-rounded person, but you're a well-rounded person because you are engaged by and driven by your career path, right?
Sure.
That type of thing. So anyway, so the whole double major thing has its limited use cases, but just to get it, like getting something like finance and accounting together makes almost no sense. I
Yep.
certainly wouldn't stay another semester to get it. I certainly wouldn't do any of those things because one can do the other just fine. Now, if you're a finance major and you want to sit for the CPA exam and you need those extra accounting classes, well, go back and take the accounting classes, and that might result in a double major. Well, good for you, right? That's type scenario. But if you don't need, right, something for some level of certification like a CPA, like sitting for the CFA exam, like being a financial planner, like whatever. I mean, I'm just throwing these out there, like going to
Yeah.
medical school, like being a patent agent along with being a practicing attorney. Yeah, I don't see much value in it, quite frankly.
Well, it kind of goes into the next question, which are the positives and the negatives of it. Like, let's go through a couple, if we can just point out a few points, specific points, of the positives and negatives of it. I think the negatives would be the most obvious one, which is an extra cost, extra time.
Oh yeah, cost and time.
Yeah, that's the two biggest ones, and I don't think we need to go anywhere past that really, because I can't think of any other ones other than, I guess you can go into secondary issues where it's like depending on how you're taking it. So if you're taking double majors at the same time, you could be taking focus off of one class that you really you should be needing versus putting on a class that you feel like, you need to put that focus on, but it's really not going to help you. So I guess like you have secondary issues, but we've both kind of talked about our opinions of not being very good when it comes to double majors and minors. But let's see if we can come up with some positives as to why someone would go.
Well, let me throw one negative out there.
Sure, yeah, please.
It creates negative perceptions among others.
Okay.
If others are looking to you as the mentor or model of what you do in school, right, going through life, we all have these little minor models or mentors that we're following, right? The people that give us some direction and things like that. And you see somebody do one thing versus another, all of a sudden you're like, well, I should do that too. Right? I should get that degree too. I should do that because that's got to be some signal towards their success. You see that with like graduate programs like MBAs and things like that.
Yep.
Oh, other people have it, so I should do it. Right? Even no matter the value that it gives to you, right? You just do it. Right? One problem I see, and I see this primarily with people who have no educational background prior to coming into college and stuff, trying to stack graduate degrees. And they're kind of lower quality online graduate degrees, and they just stack them one on top of the other, and they do nothing for them career-wise, right? So there's this like societal and overall impression that it gives others when you do things that is necessary. So in a way, right, I'm a big proponent of you should be we do have an obligation to others in society to be a model for them. Maybe not actively, maybe not a pure mentor to them where they can talk to us, but to act in a way that represents just theories of goodness, right?
Yeah.
That is just a positive element. How you treat others, how you, right, your acceptance of others, right, the values that you place on things, right, that type of thing, right. Materialism versus doing things for the common good, right, that type of thing, right. So everything you do, you are a mentor, you are a role model. And pursuing things and putting a lot of emphasis on it can create a misimpression to others about what is necessary or what you should be doing in college. So that being said, right, that's the only thing I can identify outside of cost and time.
Positive for me, I'm going to move over to the positive, and I'm going to focus more on minors, because minors to me are the ones that I can say, okay, that's somewhat justifiable in certain situations. Double majors are tougher. Again, if it's needed for a specific career, like you were talking about with patent law, that's one thing. more from a minor perspective, because you're not taking as many classes as you would a double major. I'm going to go back to what I was saying earlier about my opinion with double majors minors, is that if you're doing it, if you're looking for it for the purpose of the educational side of it, and you feel like that's where you're going to get the best foundational knowledge of it, then that's a positive. So for instance, if you're going to go into IT, you're going to get your major in IT, and you're going to do something in IT, but you're going to have your own business, then there is a need for you to understand the business foundations, how to set up your business, how to run a business, intrinsic motivations, extrinsic motivations, those kind of things. You need to know those kind of things. And those are things that you would get, hopefully, from business classes. Now, could you get those elsewhere? You probably could, but you're in the setting already. Once you get into your career, you're pretty much going 90 miles an hour, and finding the time to get that extra little bit of education may be a little bit more difficult. I was actually talking to some people about possibly doing some work with them, some consulting work with them, because they are so good at what they do, but not the business structuring side of it, if that makes sense. They were more or less struggling with the structuring of the business. And that's just something that you could get from possibly a minor, or just taking some extra classes, but which could lead to a minor. That to me, the educational side of it is a positive, or could potentially be a positive if you're doing it for that reason. If you're doing it for to me, let me put this in a completely different way. If you're going into your majors still worried about your GPA, then you're doing it the wrong way, because you are checking those boxes that you're talking about. If you're going in there and you're actually putting the work in and studying outside of class because you truly want to learn and be educated about this kind of stuff, then a minor, sure, that's completely worth it to me, justifiable, I should say, because it's going to give you that. So it is the difference between the learning side versus the checking the box because you feel like you need to have this, and you're going to, the academic side of it. That's where the defining piece is to me. So do it for educational purposes. Did you have one?
I couldn't agree more. Maybe the only other one I've got is, like I said, society is what it is. You want to express that you have some exposure to something that can't be assumed. So a degree does have a signaling function. So if I tell somebody, or if I'm going to talk with somebody about something, or I'm going to need some level of credentials in order to be recognized as having knowledge, respected in the area, people willing to listen, right? In order for me to, in some way, exert influence, right? That is, to convince people in an argument, to show people that, well-rounded is a good thing. A signaling function can be useful. Yeah. If you start talking with someone, it's kind of like this. You start talking with someone shares their opinion, and you share your opinion, and they doubt you, right? Or they don't. And I say, well, when I was studying this, right, I have a degree in this, right? So what it took me down was this path. I've noticed that people tend to put more credence in what you're saying. They're like, okay, you're not just coming up with an opinion. You've actually got an informed opinion about what you're saying. So there is some credibility factor that comes from saying, I've studied this to a certain degree, and that signaling function of attaching the degree to it, saying, look, I've got a full degree in that. People all of a sudden, their minds go to, well, you've taken 12 classes at least, or 10 classes at least around that topic. You probably know a little bit more about it than just reading whatever, article on whatever platform, right, about that topic. So there is a signaling function where you can use it appropriately. Now, too many people depend on that signaling function to, again, like I say, they think that signaling function is going to get them a job or going to create opportunities for them. And they don't realize just stacking degrees where you don't actually know that much, right? You've just checked the box. Like I say, I've got so many students currently that, I've been teaching for 10 years now. And I got to say, I'm moving academic institutions, right? And that's something I got to let the people know. And nothing I say represents the opinion of the academic institution that you and I have been at, right? And we still are there, right? But I'm going to a new academic institution because I love the business model more. I love the educational model more. I think it more aligns with what I see as the perfect type of model. But I've had students for so many years that, again, they finish my class and they just don't know much at all. But they'll tell people they've got a business degree or they've got to do concentration in something, and that's a signaling function to the world. But at the same time, all they've really done is check the box, or they'll go get a master's degree in something. And truth be told, they really do not know much about that subject. Right? I've met people who've never taken a business class because I'm into entrepreneurship. I was on the phone yesterday talking with a nurse anesthetist, right?
That's a hard
She's
word
just
to say.
taken biology and nursing classes. But she has tried starting her own startup in a product-based field. And she has more business knowledge and acumen than almost any of my business school graduate students who are graduating. And she acquired it 100% on her own type scenario. But somebody will say, oh, I got a business degree in, whatever. And people will make an assumption that they know what they're talking about. And, she lacks that formal credential. She was asking me, should I go to an MBA program? Should I do this type of thing? And I was like, for what purpose? If you want a job that needs that credential, perhaps. If you want to, but when it comes to, do you have the knowledge or the ability to acquire the knowledge that you need to be successful in your startup, then absolutely not. Waste of time, waste of money type scenario. So anyway, that's an example, just my opinion. I'll throw it back to you now. I know I've been talking for a while, but so, that's why I have such a strong opinion on this whole double major thing.
Well, and I'll end it here too, because I think we're both kind of saying the same thing. Our end point is the same. So the direction that we get there is a little bit different, but I will say this, and this is something that we talked about on one of our very first episodes. I can't remember which one it was, but we were talking about, is college for everyone? And you said yes to make a more well-rounded person, and I said no because it's really dependent on the end point, but kind of the same thing because, yes, it does, but if your career doesn't depend on it, then it's not necessary for you to have one. And that's what a lot of students are going for right now is they say, well, I'm going to get a college degree because X, Y, and Z has them, and I feel like I need them, but they don't know what their end result, their end goal is. Same thing with a minor, as I think a lot of students, and same double major too, but I think a lot of students see that, like you said, where they see double majors and minors being represented by their peers. That's what they're going for, and they think, well, I need to go for that. And in reality, there are possibly better options, and that's kind of what I'm getting to here with my last point is, just take the time to understand what other options are out there. Like you don't have to have a minor. Maybe a certificate would be better. If you got a specific certificate in a certain skill set plus your normal major, which you have, which you've graduated with, then that's probably going to be even more beneficial than a minor. Or because you have specialized classes and you can put that on your resume versus just a minor. It's one of those things to say that you've got a minor in, I'm just going to use this hypothetically, to say you got a minor in accounting, the person hiring you doesn't know what that specializes in. They know you have a minor skill set that comes from accounting. If you are if you got a certificate, it's usually specialized. It's specialized in whether it be bookkeeping processes, systems, anything like that. So I would say, that's probably the biggest thing for me is understand your options. There's opportunity costs out there because it's going to cost you more time and more money if you go through the minor versus if you were to go through the certificate side. The certificate side or any options that are out there, I think are really could be more beneficial depending on your situation. So just take the time to do your homework to figure out which one is it really necessary. Don't go based on what somebody else is doing. So that's my last point. This has been a cool episode. I was kind of apprehensive about it just because I know I never had double majors or minors, and I had my opinion on it, and knowing now, listening to you, it's the same thing. You have your opinions on it as well, but you didn't have those. It's been a really interesting episode. Hopefully this will get, some information, give better information to our listeners so that they can make their own educated and informed decisions when it comes time. But, this has been good. You got anything to say before we head out?
Just remind everybody, visit our website, visit our social media handles, and give us all those stars on your favorite social media app. Because, like I say, we want to hear from you. Contact us any way you know how.
Awesome. Well, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschooled Podcast. Be sure to head over to reschooled.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.